It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and I have my respect, and I'm into this game, yeah, we'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center, here in Salt Lake City. What a night it is going to be. Historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Early on the turn,
Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top.
And welcome in, and a very happy Tuesday to you. It is NewsWire here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Ranieri in for Craig Mish here today, and we've got plenty of headlines being sent, and a lot going on across the sports world right now. And we'll start with some big news here in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers announcing that they are now willing to listen to trade offers for Brandon Ayuk, and they've given their star wide receiver permission to negotiate a contract with other teams. And some of those potential suitors we're hearing include the Cleveland Browns, maybe the New England Patriots. It sounds like at this point it's really up to Brandon Ayuk and what he or who he might be willing to play for. This was a situation that got ugly as the offseason progressed. And if you're Brandon Ayuk, let's face it, the last thing that you wanted was to watch everybody else get a contract in the wide receiver position except you. So this was bound to happen, but the 49ers have granted him the permission. We'll see where that goes. If you are a Commanders fan, then this may not come as a shock to you, as we just learned what that depth chart is at the QB position. And shocking to nobody, Jaden Daniels is their starting quarterback on the first depth chart of the season. I have been saying it. I will say it again. There is absolutely no way. I don't think this kid is going to be the cream of the crop. He is going to be the class of this draft. Nothing against Caleb Williams, but Jaden Daniels would have absolutely been my number one choice, having looked at all of the possibilities. And you know what? Looks like the Commanders are on the same page. And we've got all sorts of news in the Olympics. And we'll start one of the biggest stories yesterday, too, with how about Mondo Duplantis from Louisiana. He's a 24-year-old who just competes for Sweden, by the way, even though he's in Louisiana. Competes for his mother's homeland, which is Sweden, and he just broke the pole vault record there yesterday in unbelievable fashion. 20 feet 6 inches. That is a break of the world record for his 9th time, by the way, and the first time on this Grand Set stage. This kid is just absolutely phenomenal. He has been, and if you didn't get a chance to see it, it's all over. Check out the memes, check out the replays. It's his second straight gold medal and breaking the record again for the 9th time. This is just a absolute feat, which is why we love, don't we? Don't we all just love the Olympics for these types of things? The Katie Ledeckis, the Mondos of the world, seeing things happen in real time for people who work their whole life in order to be able to compete in these sports. And it truly is a good reminder on just how good these athletes are and how dedicated they are in the Olympics. Not so great news, though, is the marathon swim had to be canceled over the water quality in the Siena River that they were going to go and do this event in. A test, I guess, of the water to allow the Olympian athletes, they said was not passable. They opted in order to not go ahead and have that. They said the decision to cancel was for the better health of everybody involved. So not a great situation there. Great situation if you are France, though, as the host nation there has an opportunity on Friday at noon for gold in what? Men's soccer. How is that? You got to love it. Two of the very best soccer nations in the world are going to be going at it. Spain beat Morocco 2-1 after rallying late, while France beat Egypt 3-1 after scoring twice in extra time. The bronze medal, however, will be Egypt versus Morocco, and that's going to be Thursday at 11 a.m. Plenty of great stuff coming up today, too, including, how about SGA and Canada getting ready to go here in action a little bit later. Canada is going to take on Wemby in France in Paris, while Team USA is favored by, are you ready for this number? Let's see how many of you are running to the window to lay this number down. 27.5 points against Brazil. This is going to be at 3:30 this afternoon. There is absolutely no way I am running to the window to lay any of that with Team USA, who, keep in mind, has no motivation to blow anybody out because point differential in the knockout stage means nothing. Serbia also understands what's at stake here as they advanced to the semifinals not too long ago. They handled business against Australia, which means the Joker is on his way to being a wrecking force here. And it's interesting. So Serbia on that side of the quarterfinals beats Australia. They are going to await, well, let's be realistic, Team USA here, as they take on Brazil. They're on that side for the semifinal. Germany will be taking on Greece, as well as France taking on Canada. Like we told you, those two winners will advance to the semifinal. And, of course, the winners from there will be playing for gold. In other NFL news we've got going on, how about the Chiefs signing kicker Harrison Butker to a 4-year, $25.6 million extension, making him the NFL's highest paid kicker per multiple reports here. This is a great payday for Harrison Butker, who has been in Kansas City since 2017. And I don't know, he's only won 3 Super Bowls, 19, I believe, 197 of 221 is what his field goal record is, 89%. And setting an NFL record with a 57-yard field goal in the big game. Harrison Butker getting paid by the Chiefs. And you got to love when you deliver on a consistent basis for a winning team, you are going to get paid. We also have some bad news coming out of the Browns camp right now with defensive end Zadarius Smith carted off the field with a knee issue. The Browns, who were just celebrating the fact that they got Myles Garrett back from a hamstring injury in camp on Monday, but now very well could have lost another important piece of that defense there with Zadarius Smith. He was taken into the team's practice facility on a cart during one of the drills there. He was in visible pain, grabbing at his left knee. Athletic trainers were trying to console him. It was not good. They did diagnose it with a knee contusion, but I think we all know that is not a good situation at all. They say he will be reevaluated a little bit later today. Also, cornerback Greg Newsome, hamstring. Defensive lineman Dalvin Thompson, he's got a knee issue. They have not participated in camp. This is already not a great start for some very high-profile players for the Cleveland Browns, but we'll keep note on what's happening with them. Also of note, how about the Oakland Athletics have agreed to sell their stake in the Oakland Coliseum? We know the departing Oakland Athletics are heading to Sin City in Las Vegas, but they have reached an agreement to sell their half of the Coliseum to a private group who plans on turning it into a very big, giant entertainment and sports complex in the city, in that Bay Area there. So it looks like that will not go to waste. What did go to waste, however, was the White Sox season after losing again last night, and now have lost 21 straight, tying an American League record for most consecutive losses. Ouch, ouch, White Sox. And they'll have another crack at the A's here today, but I would not hold my breath on them winning anything. Diamondbacks also won the fight, lost the battle last night as their veteran Gold Glove catcher there, Gabriel Moreno, left the game last night against the Guardians with a left groin strain. Not good for the Diamondbacks. And there you've got it. Today's headlines. We got much more to get to as NewsWire continues here on the grid.
What has happened? What has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado? It wasn't just a big night of fight. It was a big night of memorable moments. Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Left hand from Ron Paul. Right hand right back from Mike Perry.
Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. Utah Sports, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC's 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare-knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
And welcome back in NewsWire here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Ranieri in for Craig Mish, and we've got Olympics on our mind, especially Team USA, who is has a pretty big match coming up on the soccer pitch for the women in just less than an hour, with an opportunity to continue their quest for a gold medal, and we welcome in our good friend Kyle Bonn here, who was also waiting patiently for this to get going on the pitch here, because why not? I think this should be a fantastic match to this particular point, right? Team USA taking on Germany in the front end of this. Then we'll have Brazil versus Spain at 3 o'clock. So let's start with Team USA. Your thoughts on this match and how are we betting it?
Yeah, so this match is an interesting one because the U.S. dominated Germany and everybody else in their group in the first 3 matches that they played at the Olympics. And then all of a sudden it ground to a halt against Japan. Japan sat back in that low block defensively and just frustrated the U.S. the whole time. They got the winning goal finally in extra time from Trinity Rodman, but it took a long time to get there, and they didn't look great in the process. So now you come into this game going, which version of the U.S. are we going to get? Are we going to get the prolific team that dominated the group stage, scored a bunch of goals, or are we going to get the team that looked like they reverted back to all their troubles that they had back last summer in the Women's World Cup? So kind of difficult to know which team is going to come out and play. Now, I think you're going to probably get the good U.S. team that played well in the group stage. They beat Germany 4-1 in that group stage, and they played really well against teams that tried to play with them, play at them. They struggle against teams that sit back defensively and frustrate them, which, to be honest with you, many teams struggle against because that's the whole point of sitting back defensively is to prevent the other team from scoring and frustrate them. So sometimes it does have a good effect against the U.S. when you sit back defensively. Germany's not really that team. They're one of the best teams in Europe. They don't want to sit back defensively. They want to get up on the front foot and play the way they want to play. So I think the U.S. will have chances to score in this game. They've preached patience this whole tournament. I think they'll come out on top.
Yeah, it's good to know that they can win in both those ways, though, right? They can win. You want to get into a shootout, we're capable of doing it. If you want to make it a grinded, disgusting game like we saw with Japan, they have the ability to win those too here. Are you leaning towards more goals than less goals in this match?
Yes, I would say so. Like I said, 4-1 was the final in the group stage.
Right.
The U.S. has such a prolific attack. They really have revitalized those front 3. Mallory Swanson being back when she was injured for the World Cup last year is such a huge addition. Trinity Rodman is a gamer, and Sophia Smith, continues to crop up in front of goal. One thing I worry about is tired legs. Emma Hayes refused to make a single substitution through the entire 90 minutes of regulation against Japan. They started to tire. She's hammered the starters the whole tournament, just thrown them out there and gone, you're my 11, make it happen. Germany had a couple of late injuries this morning, both up front in the attack. So that also scares me a little bit. But I think the U.S., if you're going to play goals in this one, I would say play the U.S. specific over. Alexandra Popp is ill for this game. She's their main goal scorer for Germany. She's out, and they also lost their other striker as well. So Germany's got a little bit of issues up front in the attack. They have a lot of good players, but some of their most prolific attackers are not playing in this game. So if you're going to play an over, I would say play either the U.S. on the spread, so maybe to win by a half goal or a goal and a half, or play the U.S. specific over, because I do think there's going to be some goals in this game for them. I would hesitate against anything like both teams to score or the just general game over. I don't know how much Germany can contribute.
Yeah, and well, it's a much different format than a World Cup, too, right? Smaller teams, smaller rosters, 6 games in 17 days. There could be some tired legs out there. Maybe not for Spain, though. They seem to be the favorite still on the board. They've got an interesting one against Brazil at 3 o'clock this afternoon. What are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, Spain, both on the men's and women's side, just continue to show incredible moxie. Both teams just continuing to come back from early deficits and win games. Really, really impressive. And because of that, I like the second half to have more goals than the first. I think that's where you would be looking at in a game like this. Brazil will try their absolute best to keep Spain off the score sheet. But, man, that has been a difficult task for anybody in this tournament. Brazil without Marta in this game. She was suspended 2 games for a red card. She's retiring at the end of the Olympics, but the fact that they won in the quarterfinals means she will take the field at the end of her career in some capacity. It just remains to be seen whether that will be in the final or in the bronze medal game, but she will get another game in her career, which is great to see. We were kind of worried that her legendary career, one of the best players ever in women's football, would go out of her career on a red card. That would be really unfortunate, but she will get to see the field again. Just we're not sure where, but I think Spain comes through with it. I picked Spain to win both the men's and the women's tournament, and right now I just don't see anybody throwing them off course. I think the U.S. can beat them. They're the biggest threat to them on the women's side, but both teams just continue to take punches and come out with a win.
Yeah, well, it's pretty impressive stuff here. Spain women's reigning women's World Cup champions, too, now with an opportunity to add a gold medal. Real quick here, Kyle, on the men's side here, another interesting final between France and Spain here. Well, is this a toss-up game to you as well?
Yeah, France look good, man. My goodness, I would play maybe even the money line draw there at plus 240 to have it go to extra time, because both these teams are playing really, really well. Thierry Henry is the coach for France, and he has led them back from a couple of early deficits as well. Both these teams just show real guts. I like France just by the way they're playing if somebody's going to win it in 90, but that money line draw has good value.
It should be an interesting one. Get ready. Coming up top of the hour, Kyle Bonn, we appreciate it as always, my friend. Enjoy the games. NewsWire will be back after this here on the grid.
Incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here, warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah, we'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. What a night it is going to be. Historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
All right, welcome back in on this Tuesday. Thanks for stopping by here to NewsWire on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Ranieri in for Craig Mish here today, and it is our favorite part of the show here where we have a SportsGrid sound-off. Let's start here with good old NFL Jim Harbaugh is not interested in hearing about college football Jim Harbaugh, or anything that you may have to say about him. As we all know, Michigan embroiled in a sign-stealing scandal. And here is Jim Harbaugh as a NFL head coach and what he thinks of the whole situation.
Never lie, never cheat, never steal. I was raised with that lesson. I have raised my family on that lesson. I have preached that lesson to the teams that I've coached. No one's perfect. If you stumble, you apologize, and you make it right. Today, I do not apologize. I did not participate, was not aware, nor complicit in those said allegations. So for me, it's back to work and attacking with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Would have been great if he just went, and this is why I'm back in the NFL, people. No, Jim Harbaugh, of course, not hearing it, but he is one of four people that are embroiled in this sign-stealing scandal. But he stays steadfast, saying, wasn't me, but Michigan certainly is going to have to answer for some of those transgressions, whether he knew anything about it or not. We are getting ready today, of course, for Team USA taking on Brazil in men's basketball, and our very own Ian McCundy. Well, he getting ready for a little USA versus Brazil. Let's hear what he's got to say.
The Team USA men's basketball team is looking to bring home their 5th consecutive Olympic gold medal when the quarterfinals get going on Tuesday. Team USA will be facing off against Brazil and are favored to win by 26.5 points on FanDuel with minus 20,000 odds. Team USA is going to have to make sure they guard the three-point line, with Brazil shooting 45.3% from behind the arc. That's the best mark in the entire tournament. The U.S. are currently leading the way in points per game and field goal percentage, while being second in three-pointers made and three-point percentage. Though his play has been exceptional, Coach Steve Kerr says Kevin Durant is still going to be coming off the bench. LeBron has the best odds of bringing home the Olympic MVP award, sitting at plus 106, followed by Durant, who sits at plus 360. At minus 550, the U.S. have the best odds to bring home the gold, and second is Canada, sitting at plus 750, though they got fortunate and they sit on the other side of the bracket to the U.S., so those two teams won't meet up unless they play in the gold medal game. If the U.S. can get it done against Brazil on Tuesday, they'll be playing the winner of Serbia and Australia in the semifinals, and that's going to get going on Thursday. There should be some great basketball starting over the next 5 days as we look to crown an Olympic champion and the U.S. push for gold.
Good stuff, Ian. Only I would not have used the word if Team USA gets past Brazil. They will most definitely get past Brazil here today. Also, we already know Serbia has beaten Australia just a little while ago, which means Team USA will be playing them in the semifinal. And I know, never say, it's not a lock. I get all of that. But Team USA will be playing Serbia in the semifinals. Mark it down. And also, mark it down, Danny Dimes with a little bit of a scrum at practice this week. Who knew Danny Dimes had this in him? Let's hear from him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Situation happens like that. You try to stand up for your guys. But I thought it was good competitive practice all day today. And we made some plays and did some good things. There's some things we need to shore up for sure. But good, good intensity and competitive spirit today.
Daniel got jiggy with it. Daniel was out there with it? Yeah. I'm going to need him to back up. Yeah, I'm going to need him to back up. Let his O-line handle that. But, Daniel, he's a competitor, man. He's a fighter, so I don't expect nothing less from him, but I don't need him in that. I don't need him to get hit. Yeah, I need to keep him healthy.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Burns, spot on. Like, I don't need him getting in any scrubs. Like, do me a favor, Glass Joe. Why don't you sit this one out, Danny Dimes? We got bigger fish to fry here if you're the New York Giants. Pretty funny stuff there, though. But we've got much more still to get to coming up here on NewsWire. We'll take a look from the legal sports report when we get back here on the grid.
what has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado. It wasn't just a big night of fight. It was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Good left hand from Rockhold. Right hand right back from Mike Perry. Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. What a night it is going to be. Historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
All right, welcome back in on this Tuesday. It is NewsWire here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Ranieri in for Craig Mish here today, and we've got plenty on the legal front in the sports betting space here, and nobody better to help us navigate through some of the top stories than the Legal Sports Report's Jim Gazzale stepping in here. And Jim, let's start in Nebraska, who has a special session going on. The talks about online sports betting, I guess, are heating up. What's the latest here in Nebraska?
Yeah, of course, it's not really the time that we typically talk about potential states legalizing online sports betting. And of course, Nebraska already has retail sports betting just at a handful of regional casinos around the state. So legalizing online sports betting in Nebraska got brought up for discussion mid last week during their special session. Governor Jim Pillen is looking for ways for the state to combat somewhat of a property tax crisis, as he called it, for its residents. So one of the options that's been put on the table is legalizing online sports betting. They talked about it at length at a General Affairs Committee hearing last week on Wednesday, spoke about it for about 3 hours. No action was ultimately taken. So we're still waiting to see if it lands on another agenda for this week where it can be brought up for another discussion and perhaps potentially be voted on in some way to advance it forward through this special session. So what they're calling for is basically just opening it up to the online apps to come in and regulate the product that way. GeoComply, that geofencing technology company that helps out the online sports books with location targeting and whatnot. They appeared at the hearing on Wednesday, pushing in favor of legalized online sports betting in Nebraska, and they said that they've seen in the first 6 months this year 40,000 accounts cross state lines from Nebraska into other states, 80% of those going into Iowa to place legal sports bets there. And one senator from Nebraska is saying that the state is giving up $32 million a year in sports betting tax revenue by not having it legalized. If they do take action on this bill here in the next couple of weeks, it would create a constitutional amendment and basically put it in front of voters in November. If they don't take it up now, Governor Pillen has said that he will put a priority bill in place in January to legalize it that way. If they do wait until January to start discussing it further during their typical legislative session, that would push that constitutional amendment out until 2026, which that one senator, Elliot Bostar, says would cost the state about $100 million. So nothing on the agenda so far for this week. That page on their website I checked just before we came on, Joe, has not been updated yet, though we are expecting to most likely see that come back for a little bit more discussion in the coming days and weeks, and ultimately see what happens with that online sports betting legislation in Nebraska.
Yeah, that's an amazing number of people crossing over there. That had to be pretty eye-opening for the legislature there to take a look, and that's money that should be staying inside the state of Nebraska there. What in the world here, Jim? Can't we all just get along, New York Racing Association and Churchill Downs? Like, what is going? Every time I turn around, it feels like there's an argument here with these tracks and platforms. What's the latest now?
Yeah, so NYRA and Churchill Downs were, a little bit of a content contract dispute last week that, ultimately got resolved rather quickly. I think you've got the two biggest players in the horse betting space, and they both removed each other's respective content from their platforms last week. What NYRA was asking for ultimately was an additional 1% source market fee from these other ADWs, the horse betting app, which Twin Spires that Churchill Downs operates. And Churchill Downs basically said, pound sand, and I'm not exactly sure who blinked first or what the ultimate terms of the agreement were, but this past weekend was the Whitney Stakes up here in Saratoga, which is traditionally one of the highest volume handle weekends in New York and really throughout the country. So as one might expect, the two sides came to an agreement just before that big weekend. And, Joe, like you said off the top, NYRA was in another content dispute with FanDuel over the July 4th holiday weekend. And that cost them actually, NYRA cost them a pretty penny in handle. And, ultimately those two sides came together. But, you're right, Joe. It's like, why can't we all just get along? Arguably the three biggest players in the horse betting space, just kind of sparring over content, everybody trying to get the best deal possible. And, ultimately the argument from the fans and the horse players is they're the ones that are losing. These big dollar entities are trying to, squeeze as much as they can from each other, and ultimately not making that content available widespread across every app, just really hinders the ability for horse racing to kind of advance and compete with all these other forms of online betting, namely sports betting. But the little dispute between NYRA and CDI, with a couple of strongly worded quotes flying back and forth, ultimately lasted less than 48 hours, and all of the content is back on the NYRA Bets app and on the Twin Spires app for New York Racing and all of the different tracks that Churchill Downs operates across the country.
Yeah, I mean, listen, with FanDuel and other, they have enough competition, so you'd think they would all get on the same page there, Jim, and it would be better for everyone, including the player. And finally, what about Ohio? I guess the latest numbers are out here, and I guess all of a sudden Bet365 is a player in Ohio. Is that what we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of in that second rung of players, I guess you would say, and they've really established themselves as a clear number three in that market. Still a far distance behind the two market leaders in FanDuel and DraftKings, which we see in most markets across the country. But for Bet365, it's been a pretty positive first 6 months of the year. Like I said, that clear number 3. And, like we were talking before we went on, Joe, I think to me the most interesting thing so far this year has been ESPN Bet and just how well they've been performing in a lot of their markets that they're live in across the country, Ohio being one of the larger ones. And, after that big promo rush that they rolled out midway through November and into December when they launched late last year, things have kind of slid backwards for them. They're now getting outpaced by a couple others of those, second tier operators. But for FanDuel and DraftKings, still at the top end of that Ohio market, really no signs of slowing down for either of them there. FanDuel has 10 consecutive months now of clearing more than $20 million in monthly revenue. But like we said off the top, Bet365, holding their own and really cementing themselves as the number 3 option in the Buckeye State.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to monitor to see how it rolls there, Jim, in Ohio and Bet365, but certainly ESPN. I think it's going to be a work in progress, man. We appreciate it, as always, dropping the knowledge on us, Jim, from the Legal Sports Report. We got much more still to get to here on NewsWire. We'll do so next year on The Grid.
Incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and I have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. What a night it is going to be. Historic indeed for BKFC's 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
Welcome back into NewsWire here on this Tuesday on the SportsGrid Network. We do have some breaking news, by the way, in the NBA. It's being reported that All-Star Lauri Markkanen is about to sign a massive extension with the Utah Jazz. We don't have any numbers on it, but Shams is reporting that Utah looks to be locking him up here for the foreseeable future, which no doubt is going to include a lot of zeros in that payday for Lauri Markkanen. So we'll keep you posted when we hear anything more on that. In the meantime, we still have golf on our mind. Let's not forget, with football back in action here, we still got to finish the season strong here. FedEx Cup playoff, and of course this week, the Wyndham Championship will be on our minds on the PGA Tour, and nobody better than Brady Kannon to help us navigate through all of this here. And Brady, before we get to the Wyndham, which is an interesting tournament, let's just rewind the clock here a little bit about one Scotty Scheffler versus one Xander Schauffele, and who the player of the year might be in your opinion, because I keep going back and forth, and I'm like, I have no idea. What he did Sunday, and the fact that he's the number one player in the world, and we all discounted it like, he's not going to do it. He can't putt. He's going to, it just goes to show you how special this guy is. And I can't figure out why he doesn't cut through like the Tiger Woods of the world in that kind of dominant fashion in years past.
He was absolutely amazing, Joe. That's one of the most incredible performances I think I've ever seen. I mean, he had 5 holes left. He stepped up to the tee box on the 14th hole, and he was 60-1 to win that golf tournament. You know, he was trailing by 6 shots, and he comes out on top. He makes 4 birdies in a row on the hardest stretch of the golf course. That final 4 holes is the hardest stretch of that golf course, the Golf Club National in France. Scotty birdies 4 out of the last 5 holes, doesn't even get to a playoff, uncontested, without extra holes. Just incredible. I mean, and Rahm, you know, did he choke? I don't know. He was minus 450 with a 4-shot lead through 10 holes. And then, you know, I was on Rahm and Fleetwood, and I'm going, okay, this looks good. Thank goodness I didn't pile on and bet more on Rahm. I was about to in game.
Yep.
And then I'm like, okay, he's fallen off here. And okay, well, I still got Tommy. Oh, well, I don't have Scheffler. I mean, that was just, God, it seemed like kind of a microcosm of everything he's done. I mean, he's digging out of the rough. He only hit 8 out of 14 fairways on Sunday and still found a way. All of a sudden, the putter got hot. I mean, the 20-footer that he drained on 17 to get to 19 under, just absolutely stunning, the performance that he put together. And as far as player of the year, I think he firmly put his foot down and said, I'll tell you who player of the year is.
Enough of this. Who are you kidding? I mean, look at that list of accomplishments. My goodness here. And it all adds to have a gold medal, him up on the podium, tears. I mean, you could not have wrote a better script for him. He goes from getting arrested to winning a gold medal. What a year for Scotty Scheffler. It's unbelievable. All right, so tell me what we got. We don't have a lot left in the PGA season here. But we certainly have a pretty good tournament coming up here in the Wyndham, and then, of course, the FedEx Cup. The playoffs will begin. So what are we doing this week here at the Wyndham?
Yeah, this is the final regular season tournament. The top 70 players after this event, the top 70 players in the FedEx Cup standings will move on to the postseason. So, you know, you've got money and postseason and jobs on the line. There's really a lot at stake for this particular tournament. Jordan Spieth, you know, might not even make it to East Lake for the Tour Championship. He's on the cusp of being sent home early. It was similar with Justin Thomas last year, where he didn't even make the playoffs. So, you know, there's a lot on the line at this tournament. And, you know, I went with guys, I've got one guy, Seamus Power, I went with this week, who I think is 69th in the FedEx Cup playoff points race. So he's right there on the fence, currently in, but if he doesn't perform well, could go out. But the rest of the guys, I really didn't pay too much attention to the numbers as far as where they sit in the standings. This is a golf course where course history and course form is really strong. Guys that perform well at this tournament tend to do so year in and year out. And guys that perform well at the correlated courses, you know, those are real strengths this week for Sedgefield Country Club in the Wyndham. Seamus Power is a guy that just makes a lot of cuts here at this tournament and all the correlated courses. The correlated courses are TPC Sawgrass, Harbor Town, where they play the RBC, TPC River Highlands, East Lake Golf Club, where they play the Tour Championship, Innisbrook, where they play the Valspar. some of these shorter, more positional, accuracy-based golf courses, they're all kind of one and the same here. Seamus Power's done really well at those. I played him at 90-1. Took a long shot stab at Mac Meisner. The young kid is doing really well, and he fits well. He does well on the par fours, accurate off the tee, all that good stuff. And then I went with some more chalkier guys, kind of a mid-range price guy with Thomas Dietrich, who comes off of a very nice finish, a 9th place finish at the Olympics last week. I think this guy's going to win pretty soon, Joe. He's really, really good. He's a hell of a putter. And another guy I think kind of falls into the same boat is Christian Bezuidenhout, who I got at 35-1. Another exceptional short game, accurate off the tee, comes off of a top 20 finish at the Olympics. This guy is, I think, knocking on the door to get a PGA Tour victory as well. And then a couple of guys that have just tremendous history at Sawgrass, at River Highlands. You know, the consummate short course players, Brian Harman and Siwoo Kim.
Yep.
Siwoo Kim has won at the Wyndham. He's won at Sawgrass. Harman was runner-up at Sawgrass this year. He's got multiple top 5 finishes at the Wyndham. So Siwoo, Harman, Bezuidenhout, Dietrich, Power, and a flyer with Mac Meisner. We'll see if we can land on one here in Greensboro, North Carolina this week.
I'm going to have to buy a vowel with all those names there, Brady. That there are a lot of consonants, a lot of vowels in that list of names there, but it should be a pretty good golf tournament with a lot of guys trying to make that last push. We appreciate it as always, Brady. We got some last licks coming up next here on News.
What has happened? What has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado? It wasn't just a big night of fights. It was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Look, left hand from Rockhold. Right hand, right back from Mike Perry. Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah, we'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. What a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC's 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight. Perry on the top. Right hand from Mike Perry. Double jab. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
All right, welcome back in as we look to close out this edition of NewsWire, but don't go anywhere. Kaplan and crew straight ahead from 1 to 3 o'clock Eastern, followed by Scotty Farrell and Coast to Coast. I will make an appearance there with Scotty at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then, of course, Game Time Decisions at 6 with Kevin Walsh. In-game live prime time after that, and, of course, Sports Rage late night following it all up. And quite the lineup here today. And we do have quite the last licks for you here today. Yeah, let's look at Nick Castellanos if we could here, because DraftKings yesterday did an amazing job of alerting the whole world that the most bet player prop to hit a home run yesterday was Nick Castellanos. Why? Because the entire world knows now when something bad happens in the universe, guess who hits a home run? And that would be Nick Castellanos. Guess who did not hit a home run yesterday? That's correct. Nick Castellanos there. So congratulations. Let that be a lesson to everybody. If everybody is talking about a certain trend and a certain prop, there's no way you can't miss. Run the other way. Don't do it. Whatever you do. Nick Castellanos came close, though. If he could have run quicker, it would have been a little bit better. But no home run for him yesterday. They did hit a home run here in South Florida. Why? Because Pitbull has now purchased for the next 5 seasons the rights to the name in which the stadium of the FIU team, that's right, the football team plays. It's now going to be called Pitbull Stadium. So Mr. 305 gets his name in big lights at Pitbull Stadium for Florida International University. I believe $1.2 million per year in order to be able to get his name up in lights at FIU football. But again, if a tree falls in a forest and nobody's there to watch it, that feels like what we've got going on here with poor Pitbull. Most people don't even know where FIU is, but you know who does? Just about everybody in the 305, including Mr. 305 himself, Pitbull. And of course, we do have one final last lick for you here. And how about this one? Look at KD, man, getting caught look at that. You gotta love that, man. Bam in the front seat, man, just happened to do the old selfie behind the shoulder. And guess who's passed out in the back seat? I'd say, look at that. Look at KD, man. Not getting a lot of sleep, apparently, there on this Olympic journey today. But Kevin Durant will certainly hop on 3 or 4 different burner accounts he has and make sure that he lights into them. That is a great picture, and we've all been there before as well. Most people that I know, the crazy friends that I have, if that would have been me faking sleeping in the back seat, they would have all screamed and slammed on the brakes, and that would have been an absolute mess. I've had that happen to me quite a number of times. But speaking of KD and Bam, Team USA is getting ready today, 3:30 against Brazil. It'll be their opportunity to continue their quest in order to get a gold medal for Team USA. Now, we do know earlier, if you're just joining us, Serbia won. So they beat Australia. Serbia is on that side of the bracket. So they will have an opportunity here when Team USA wins to once again go up against the Joker and see what they can get done. And then, let's face it, they're a big favorite for a reason. And I don't think Brazil is going to be the team that ends up sending Team USA packing to anything but a gold. I will say this, the 26.5 points, at your own risk, there is no motivation for Team USA to keep their foot on the gas and blow people out. Point differential doesn't matter anymore in the knockout stages. So Team USA and Kevin Durant, don't let them snoozing cloud your judgment. They understand that, 1 point or 2 points over victory is really just showing off. They got to win, and they're in. And that's the only thing that matters here. And I think they win in a big way here coming up this afternoon. Again, Kaplan and friends coming up straight. We got a loaded card for you here today on the SportsGrid Network, and we've got you covered. Everything Olympics, Major League Baseball, football is back. Oh, I gotta love it. Football is back, and sign us up for it. We appreciate the time, as always. Thanks for stopping by NewsWire. More great sports betting content coming your way here on The Grid. Have a great